A biblical perspective on life, culture and current events. This is 2020 on Vision.
Well, it's always great to be able to celebrate the planting of new churches in remote outback communities. Well, Frontier Services is helping to bring a new church and a healing garden to the remote Oodnadatta community. Now, Oodnadatta, check your geography here, about 1,000 kilometres north of Adelaide, west of Lake Eyre and the Simpson Desert. Rob Floyd is National Director of Frontier Services. Hey, Rob, welcome along to 2020.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. It's great to be with you.
And Rob, you've only just got back to your base. You've visited Oodnadatta in the past week or two.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, we spent a whole week there working on the gardens and then leading up to the opening of the church on Sunday morning, which was fabulous.
And Oodnadatta, once a thriving railway town, people have been describing it as like semi-abandoned since the train station closed decades ago. Was that like the death knell for the town?
People might have heard of the Ghan Railway that runs from Adelaide to Darwin. It used to go through Oodnadatta and obviously be a significant stop along the way, but some 40-odd years ago, they moved the line quite a long way away. And so it's a much smaller, quieter town. There are signs of the old train station and other things. It's not quite a ghost town, but it's certainly fairly small. And to give people some context, the local school's got probably fewer than 20 students. There's one shop, one hotel, that kind of scale. So it's quite a small town.
And a small town, but something of a big reputation. I'm just thinking back to, how do I know the name Oodnadatta, a little tiny town in the middle of nowhere, but became famous around the thought of the Oodnadatta track. Are you across all of those sorts of geography lessons?
Yes, although not as much as the locals. But yes, the Oodnadatta track sort of starts there and runs further north into the Northern Territory and eventually sort of joins other roads that lead you through to Alice Springs. And it, among other things, has over its life served as a sort of a stock trail for cattle musters and all sorts of things. So it's fairly remote. It's a fairly rugged bit of road, but beautiful country nonetheless.
Well, we want to just pause and celebrate with you and all those you've been working with and residents in the town of Oodnadatta who've welcomed this new church and a community healing garden. Let us in on some of the details here because for something like 20 years, there was a First Nations bush chaplain, Julia Lennon, who was faithfully serving the people of Oodnadatta. Yes,
that's right, Neil. Across those 20 years, well and truly before Julia became a bush chaplain, she had a sense, a call from God to work with the young people and work with the community, offering them, things like Sunday school lessons, opportunities to worship and so on. And throughout all that, she felt strongly the call to ministry in that community and a longing that community might have a church or a home for them to gather in as a place of coming together to worship and to celebrate and to share in their Christian faith, but also in their culture and heritage in that space. So it was a long-held dream of Julia's that with some funding from the Uniting Aboriginal and Islander Christian Congress in South Australia, the Uniting Church Synod in South Australia and Frontier Services kind of all was able finally to come together to build this amazing new church. So it was such a joy to see Julia's and other members of the community's faces when they realised that a dream and a prayer that had been 20 years in the making finally came to fruition. It was beautiful.
And when you talk about a partnership between all those organisations, wonderful to see things happen when people work together in their different organisational groups. Hey, she was leading Sunday school and church services in lounge rooms and in sheds and in open paddocks. Now she's got a roof over the heads of these kids, a church. Give us a little blow-by-blow description of what this church looks like.
Yeah, look, it's a fabulous building. It's kind of a large area in the middle, which will serve that community well as both a gathering place for church on a Sunday, but the furniture's flexible, so it can push back and can be a place where youth come together, for social or singing or gatherings, where women might come together to do crafts, where they can all come together and share in hospitality and meals together and so forth. So it's a fabulous space in the middle with really absolutely wonderful, clean toilets at one end, and at the other a really well-equipped kitchen so that they can provide care and hospitality and just be a wonderful place of gathering for the whole community.
Now, significance on the site, the new church and the community healing garden. And I know there'll be listeners thinking, why does the church need a community healing garden? And there's some history here around a house called Colebrook Home, which was a government-run institution. What's the story there?
Yes, so we all, I think, know the story of the stolen generations, and so many years ago now, but the site was the site of what was called Colebrook Home, which was a government-run institution, and as we know, many Aboriginal children were forcibly removed from families during the stolen generations and taken to such homes, and this was one such home. That house no longer exists, the home no longer exists, but there's a very clear site and concrete slab, if people can imagine, with grass growing around it now, where that was the site of the home. And so for us to work with our volunteers to build a community garden nearby where people can sit in shade among beautiful plants, can look at garden beds, can gather to share stories, to re-engage with culture and history, creates a beautiful space of healing, reflection, and I guess an opportunity for people to share in some of that painful past in a way that allows them also to feel that there's real hope for the future.
So when you've got a painful past like that and reflecting on stolen generations and their own experience in the town of Oodnadatta, the thought that there could be a church influence here that is an attempt to bring healing from some past trauma. How significant is that when you've got some physical activity or some substantial activity that goes on that is a hand to the First Nations peoples and saying this is our effort to try and bring some healing? How significant is that?
Oh, I think it's hugely significant, Neil, and it affirms, I think, to the community that their perseverance over generations wasn't for nothing. It affirms their resilience as a community, but it also, and particularly for the younger people that Julia has been working with, it shows them that there is hope and possibility in the future if they work towards it. They are prayerful. They work together as community. They collaborate with each other and so forth. It is a real sign of hope and possibility for the future, as well as a place for engaging with the difficult, things of the past.
Rob, is there the likelihood that the presence of a new church and the community healing garden could in fact be a catalyst for transformation of an entire community in an outback town? Is that the way you see, some motivation in getting involved and being part of these things?
Look, I believe so, Neil, because among other things within the church building, and I didn't mention this earlier, we've helped set up a sort of an internet hub so the young people can come and have free, really good satellite internet connection as one example. So it's a place where I would hope the community can come and young people can come. They can be more connected with the world and the sort of services that they might need, but they can also tell their story beyond Oodnadatta and invite other communities to see the hope and the life that they are sharing in. So I would like to hope that through the process, Neil, rather than Oodnadatta feeling small, isolated, end of the line, no one really, bypassed and no longer relevant, it in fact helps them to feel that this is home-centred, there is hope and possibility and new life brimming within that community.
And is the First Nations Bush chaplain Julia Lennon, is she going to be continuing in her role there, just bringing a presence, bringing the gospel to the people?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the main contribution Frontier Services makes going forward, is that we provide the funding that supports Julia in her ministry role. And she's local to that community, passionate about that community, a faithful, passionate follower of God, and feels so strongly that God's call on her life is to be a pastor to this community and to continue to bring that community to understanding more about God and God's will for that community to be a flourishing place of life and hope for the future.
Wonderful stuff. Well, it's very nice to be able to talk to you, Rob, and to celebrate with you the opening of a new church and a healing garden for that remote Oodnadatta community there in South Australia. Just fabulous to get your insights, and thanks so much for a great description of what's going on. And I think we can all believe that, that God is going to bring his favour and blessing on that entire community because of the presence of that new church facility, but certainly the ministry that goes along with it. Rob Floyd is National Director of Frontier Services. You can connect with Rob and you can check out the good work that they're doing at frontierservices.org. That's the website, frontierservices.org. Rob, thanks so much for giving us an update today on 2020.
Thanks very much, Neil.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.